Okay, the first order of business will be sworn.
I think we respect and most of us. But last night went to the Grammys. Great idea. Washington's greatest fashions, more traditions. Of course, he did tell us something. Well, over 29 days, February. That's when it comes in. Anyhow, and of course, an article.
Not kidding.
He talks about the law of the Lord. Like back to your earlier day. Christians are so aware of Jesus' impatience with the Pharisaic legalism than any moral codes or ethical demands are seen as contrary to Jesus' teaching. However, the basic demand to obey God's will and law is the foundation of our Christian faith. By voluntary obedience to the law of the Lord, we find joy in our life. We are not asked to be slaves of God's law, but servants of it. The practice of the Ten Commandments, the preference of the Ten Commandments reminds the Israelites that they have already entered into a covenant relationship with God when they were freed from bondage in Egypt. It may sound as if God is imposing another kind of bondage on the Israelites, but the preface is rather a declaration of liberty the Israelites will enjoy for having a new covenant with God. The law of God is a promise of salvation from our own sinful selves, and it is also a promise that we will no longer be slaves to ourselves.
Thank you, Swin. Is Lois in the room? I just asked if you were in the room while I'm looking right at you. Okay, do you have a report of membership and treasury?
I've had a number of hats on this morning, and I'm not positive exactly
how accurate anything I'm going to say is. According to everybody who signed in today, and I hope it was all of you, we have 27 members present. And we have one guest, Barbara Bear. But she's up there. Thank you for being here. And we have our guest speaker, and he has a little entourage with him. So we're going to be meeting them later. Thank you for being here today. As far as finances, we have $1,062.80 in our account right now.
Okay. Judy, well, wait a minute. We've got to do birthdays. And then we have a business meeting with nominations for next year. You want to go in and do the birthdays? Okay, thanks.
Okay, the birthdays. That requires Lois to put on her choir robe. Is this too loud? Okay, the first one I have on my list is the 1st of February, and that would be Ruth Edney. Come on down, Ruth. And we have Norman Crater. Come on down, Norm. Chip Dahlman, I don't believe he's here, but his birthday is on the 7th. Ellen Kaiser couldn't make it this morning, but her birthday is on the 18th. Paul Black is here, and so is Becky Schweers. And both of them have a birthday, would you believe, on the 21st. And we have Lynn Berry, whose birthday is on the 22nd. So I will distribute these while we sing happy birthday, so we won't be too late running this show. But here comes Lynn. Okay, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do a quick review of the officers nominated for next year.
This will be quick. The Colonial Classics Nominating Committee submits the following nominations to be voted on next month. Oh, louder? Okay. Okay, is that better? All right. The Classics Nominating Committee submits the following nominations to be voted on next month. For President, Marcia Hildebrand, Vice President, Tony Hayes, Secretary, Christine Chemmel, Treasurer, Lois Armour, Membership, Lois Armour, and Members at Large, Cynthia Duvall, Barbara Moore, and Bob Herrick. So are there any nominations from the floor? I don't see any. So this will close our nominations. Oh, what?
I move we accept them as
Okay.
provided by the nominating committee.
Okay. Second, Barbara. Okay. Okay, so I guess that, what, okay, vote. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, it passes. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Marcia has a comment.
Thank you. So the committees are not nominated or voted on or anything. The committees can be appointed or volunteers. So as of today, the committees that we have in place are still in place. If you're interested in joining the program committee, the food committee, a nominating committee, speak to Bonnie and we'll get the new groups rolling by the 1st of May. Does that make sense? So if you want to stay on the committee you're on, that's great. If you want to step down and have somebody else join, there doesn't have to be a certain number of people on those committees either. So just speak to Bonnie if you're interested or what? No, I'm not, I wouldn't be elected until next month and wouldn't be. Oh, well, talk to Bonnie or to me if
Yeah.
you're interested in being on one of those.
The committees have worked out great this year. It's really helped lower the workload of people who are doing one thing. The speaker committee comes to mind. It's been great having multiple brains thinking this out. And today we are really lucky. We've been looking forward to this speaker for months. So Judy, you want to come up and introduce?
And as Bonnie said, I can't express how lucky we are to have this particular speaker today. This is Jim Keaton, and he'll be speaking today about jukebox days, early 60s. Jim has been doing presentations now for 10 years. And in 2014, he started his first program, Baseball ALZ, Sports Reminiscence Program for Alzheimer's, Texas, as a way to honor his father who had dementia later in his life. And this program is still in existence and still being used in many places. Jim was working with a gentleman in Scotland during COVID shutdown on a soccer reminiscence program similar to this, and bringing together the people from Scotland and the US using Zoom to talk about old rock and roll from the 50s and 60s. What a great experience that was. And thank you, Jim, so much for coming today to give us this program.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, so the business meeting is over. So I guess I ought to. Okay, the fun meeting hopefully is starting. So put on your party hat, because the reason I do this is for all of us to have fun. And the main reason I have fun is I want to hear your stories of being a teenager. Now, this is a young group. I was going to say in the 50s and 60s, but with this group, I'll say in the 70s and 80s and wink, wink, because so today we're going to, the first time I do this at a group, it's always a little bit hard because I don't know what your interests are, the exact demographics and all that. So Judy and I decided that let's pick the early 60s. And we've got a little flexibility because you're going to see Elvis Presley's first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1956. You're going to see the Beatles' first performance on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. And so we're going to kind of jump all around, but we're going to focus on the early 60s. So to start with, this is a cover. Now, okay, I want to introduce Blaine Wilson. whose wife, Holly, happens to be an associate pastor at University Methodist. So Blaine follows me to all the different churches we do these at. He keeps me out of trouble, and with his help and Bob's, they were able to get everything working in short order this morning. So I really appreciate their help. But anyway, Blaine fusses at me because I have terrible font color on my opening slide. So just trust me, it says Jukebox Days, 1962 to 1965. And as I was looking at this morning, this slide really doesn't fit with that time frame. The gentleman on the left, who is that? It's actually, and that's another mess up on my part, that's Gary Busey playing Buddy Holly in the Buddy Holly movie. But unfortunately, and it was exactly 65 years ago last Saturday that Buddy Holly died in that tragic plane crash. And oh, I should have warned you up front. I love useless trivia, so you guys just kind of roll your eyes and deal with this. But one of the causes that I just learned about this week with all the articles is that the pilot of Buddy Holly's plane was 21 years old. He's taking off at 1 o'clock in the morning in a blinding snowstorm. He had studied to get his, do we have any pilots in here? Okay. So they studied to get their instrument license. He passed the written test, but he failed the applying it. But the saddest thing of all is that in a plane, and I'm not a pilot, so they have a instrument that simulates the horizon, and it shows how the plane is going up from the horizon or down. This guy studied on one of these. It was exactly the opposite of the one that was in the plane. So with all the pressure of taking off late at night, he's tired, snowstorm, he's thinking he's climbing because of what the instrument said, he's going straight down. Oh, man. Okay, that's Buddy Holly. Who's the guy in the middle? Nah. Rock Around the Clock. Bill Haley in the comments. Okay. Bill Haley's last top 40 hit was in 1958 until 1974. Anybody have a clue why a gentleman that died in the 60s had a song that was a top 40 hit in 1974? Anybody watch Happy Days with Richie Cunningham, Ron Howard, and all that? You remember the opening song to Happy Days? Rock Around the Clock. That TV show, when it premiered in 1974, was so popular, and it opened up with Rock Around the Clock, that the song made it back into the top 40 charts. One last Bill Haley comment so we can finally get going. You see the hair in his forehead? That's called I think it's called a stick curl. Okay. Why would Bill Haley wear a stick curl? Bill Haley, when he was a child, had an operation on his eye that didn't work. He was blind in his left eye. So he wore this stick curl on his right forehead to try to avert attention from his bad eye when he was on stage performing. You're taking notes on this. You may need this at some point. Okay, who's the guy on the far left? Elvis. We're going to spend some time talking about Elvis today, but he even doesn't fit in this time frame. You know that from 1964 until 1968, Elvis had only one top 10 song. Why? Well, there was this group from England that came over here in 1964 that kind of took away all the attention. Elvis obviously made a great comeback in the 70s. Bob said he saw Elvis in here, San Antonio. Okay. Very good. And what were you telling me that I had never heard before? I've always heard Elvis has left the building, but who did that at this concert you went to? Colonel Barber. Okay, so when it comes to be 12 o'clock, I need you to say, Jim Kenton has left the building. Okay, so anyway, we've spent way too much time with the entry slide. So what I'd like to do is to kind of get us in the mood for that time frame to talk a little bit about what was going on in the early 60s. So next slide, Blaine. So fashion, we started the 60s with the grace and the dignity of Jackie Kennedy. And we ended the 60s with the, pick a word, of Janis Joplin. So we had quite a switch. And so any guys remember what fashions you were wearing in the 60s? Remember polyester pants? And you would snag them and, I thought of one this morning that I haven't brought up. Lane hadn't heard this, so he follows me all around. Does anybody remember when Madras shirts were popular? Is that how you pronounce it, Madras? And what was the sales pitch for Madras back in the early 60s when it came out? Put them in the washing machine, what happened? It faded or it bled, whatever. Okay. I had this horrible feeling that my mother put my first Madras shirt in with my dad's white dress shirts, and I think we had a problem, but anyway. Janis Joplin, Port Arthur, Texas. Okay, that's fashion. Let's go to the next slide. Hairdos. Okay, guys, did anybody wear a ducktail back in the 60s? Be honest. Flat top. I was a flat top guy. I had this horrible, what do they call it, cowlick? So, remember butch wax? I kept butch wax in business. I thought if I put enough butch wax on my cowlick, nobody had noticed. They didn't, but they sure noticed the butch wax. But anyway, who's the guy in the bottom left? Any baseball fans? Showing a flat top? Roger Maris set a home run record in 1961. Okay, so we picked on the men. Let's pick on the women. Next slide. Okay, what do we call that hairdo? Beehive, right. Jackie Kennedy on the left. A young singer who became one of the best soul singers, in my opinion, on the left or right. Who is that? Aretha Franklin, very good. What other hairdos? Remember, I'm going to show you one when we show you American bands called the Flip Up Bob. We all tried to do that. I didn't because of my cowlick, but anyway, that's another story. Okay, Blaine, next slide. Okay, it's a little bit off, but it's like, who were your favorite singers in the 60s? Who do we hear? Beatles. Beatles for sure. Any other? Neil Sedaka, very good. Very good. Who? Bobby Darin. We're gonna play Bobby Darin. Not yet, that was Del Shannon. Yeah, he was. Oh, I'm sorry, you said who did. I thought you said. Very good, Del Shannon. Bobby B, Bobby Benton. It was early 70s, what Any other? Herman's Hermits, I was gonna say, any other groups from the UK? Rolling Stones? Okay. Now, every church I go to, I ask this question. Rolling Stones made an appearance here in San Antonio in 1964. It was, if you were at that teen fair, were you really?
Yes.
Did they truly get booed off the stage?
I don't remember that. It just was great fun.
Okay, you can, while I have a conversation with nice lady, but I have a interview on Colonial radio where he was interviewing somebody that was at that teen fair, and she says they gave the Rolling Stones a horrible time because here in Texas we weren't used to the long hair and all that, and they kind of anything. But the story I heard was that they kicked him off the stage for all the booing, and then they brought back the chimpanzee act that had been on 30 minutes before, and they filled out the fun. So, very good. I think my first person fair in San Antonio. Okay, next slide, Blaine. Elvis Presley's first.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. Ladies and gentlemen. Wow. This is probably the greatest honor that I've ever had in my life. There's not much I can say except maybe it makes you feel good. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And now, don't be cruel. You know I can be found all alone. If you can't come around, at least you tell the phone. Don't be cruel. Baby, if I made you mad, something I might have said, but you don't forget the past. You look right ahead. Don't be cruel. Oh, I know that love, baby, you are.
Oh, okay. Okay, Brian, just pause it. Okay. All the camera angles were from the waist up. He did a second set on this same Ed Sullivan show, and they actually pulled the camera back. But the minute he started dancing to Hound Dog or doing his gyrations or whatever, the camera immediately came in and did the waist up. So the Mr. Lawton thing, Ed Sullivan, okay, so Elvis is out in California filming Love Me Tender. Ed Sullivan is supposed to be hosting this show from New York City. He's in a bad car wreck. So he's at home rehabbing. Charles Lawton comes in and substitutes. So that's why that little goofy introduction. Ed Sullivan had always said he never wanted Elvis on his show because he didn't like his music. He didn't like the way he performed with the gyrations and all that. But in early summer, Elvis appears on the Steve Allen show, which is going head to head with Ed Sullivan on Sunday night. For the only time ever, Steve Allen dominates Ed Sullivan in the ratings. So Sullivan says, okay, I think I better, toe the line and let's get this kid on here. His typical rate was $5,000 per performance to show up at his show. Because they had messed around with Elvis, or particularly Colonel Parker, he ended up having to pay $50,000 for 3 performances. So Elvis shows up. I think they had 86% of the TV audience that night. So it worked. Okay, that's 1956. Let's go to 1964. Another group debuts on Ed Sullivan. Who's that? The Beatles. Okay, so let's watch. Okay, next is just an introduction to the Beatles, and then we'll go to that first performance. Here we go. No, that's just an intro slide. So the next one, very night, that was a big deal. Yep. Okay. And when we were talking about hairstyles in the 60s, these guys had an effect on men's hairstyles, except for those of us that had a cowlick and butch wax. But okay, next slide, we're going to talk about movies. The early 60s particularly were a time of the big epic movies. I'm going to show you a clip from Cleopatra here in a minute, but anybody remember any of the other big movies from the early 60s? Ben-Hur, Spartacus, The Longest Day, The Alamo. Blaine, when you start this video around the 16-second mark, I'm going to get you to pause it because there's somebody we all know. Okay, so let's watch a little bit of Cleopatra, and it's a scene that includes 26,000 extras. So I'll say when to pause it too. Okay, here we go. Okay, pause it. Okay. Do you see anybody you know? It's at a distance, so I apologize. I don't know that Tony Curtis was in this one. The guy I'm looking for is, so you have 3 people on the front row on the right, then the row right behind them, the guy, the 4th one from the left. Archie Bunker. That's Carol O'Connor in Cleopatra. You don't see him? Somebody help me. Okay, there you go. That's Carol O'Connor. Okay, the reason I love this slide is because 26,000 extras are involved in filming this thing. Quite an expense for the studio. So they film it, they go back to the cutting room, and it's a very hot day in, I think they actually moved the filming from England to Rome. But when they go to edit the film, one of the extras is caught on camera selling gelato to 3 other. So they have to totally refilm part of it. So I don't think that extra came back for the second shoot. Okay, so that's movies. Let's go to TV from the 60s. See if you can tell me which TV show this theme song is from. Oh, wait. Okay, do I have any Roy Rogers fans? All right. Okay, I do this every time. The guy that drove the Jeep, what was his name? You got it? You're saying, you said his first name, Pat? Pat Brady. The name of the Jeep obviously was Nellie Bell. Dale Evans was his wife. What was Dale Evans' horse's name? Buttermilk. Very good. Of course, Roy's was Trigger. The dog's name. Bullet. Very good. Okay. You get to keep those flowers. It's Bullet. Okay. Tell me, here's the top TV show from 1964. See if you can guess it from the theme song. Okay, Bonanza. So my dad, he was career Navy. He wasn't a big officer or anything. So we were a one TV family. Remember the rabbit ears? Luckily, I was not the youngest kid in my family because the duty of jumping up and adjusting the rabbit ears went to my younger brother. The other thing, do you remember the problems with vertical hold? Remember how the stupid TV screen would just start rolling? Okay. We don't have that problem anymore. But Bonanza is the reason my dad broke down and bought a color TV set. Because he heard that and it's okay now, but if you compare it to what we have on TV nowadays, but anyway, Michael Landon, Dan Blocker, who I think spent a lot of time in or around San Antonio at Texas Military. Anyway, okay, so that's TV shows. Now let's get to the crux of the matter, and we're going to go to music. Okay. Now, let me just, since Judy put pressure on me, you guys have been waiting for months and all this. I'm going to put pressure on you, and Blaine's my witness. So we go to routinely another Methodist church, university. We go to Christ Episcopal Church twice a month, and we go to Triumphant Lutheran Church. Of all those churches, the best singers are the Methodists. Okay, so in my mind, and I'm going to see if Blaine agrees, it's the Methodists, the Lutherans, and the Episcopalians. He's nodding his head. So the pressure is on you guys when we get to these sing-alongs. I'd hate to be the reason that the Methodists drop below the Lutherans. So sing up. But before we get there, which show did we all watch as teenagers? I remember it on Saturday mornings, but I think it came with Dick Clark. American Bandstand. Okay, let's go. Next slide, Blaine. Okay, next, there it is. So let's go to a video, and I'm going to get you to pause this one too when I yell at you, okay? Okay, here we go.
You remember this one by the Ronettes.
Okay, get ready, pause it. Okay, we talked about a flip bob. Okay. Watch the young lady on the far right in the black, almost like a vest looking. Now you tell me how much hairspray she used before she appeared on. Watch her, really watch all of them. There's not a hair that moves on this video. But I think when she turns around, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a flip bob. But watch the amount of hair on this girl. Okay, here we go. Keep it going. Okay, so let's get into some specific songs from the early 60s. See if you can guess this next group. Well, we're going to talk about request. Remember the request lines on the radio? This song goes out to Judy, you know, okay. A lot of times when I do this, I'll get requests from the audience, so I know I'm picking songs that you all like, but just kind of a wild guess today. So anyway, next group, next slide. This was one of the first groups hired by Berry Gordy when he started Motown. He actually started Motown in 1959, but they really got going in the early 60s. Anybody recognize that group? This guy's a great songwriter. We're going to play 3 songs he wrote back to back to back. He only sings one of them. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. And we're going to play Tracks of My Tears. Blaine and I are listening, and we've got a rating sheet, so I want to hear you all. Okay, here we go.
People say I'm alive.
Remember the song?
Because I tell a joke or two. Oh, I might be laughing loud and hearty. Deep inside I'm blue. So take a good look at my face. You see my smile inside a place. And the closer it seems to chase the tracks of my tears. I need you. Since you left me, if you see me with another girl, seeming like I'm having fun.
Okay, let's pause it because I think you guys are going to be ready to eat at noon. So we're going to kind of speed up a little bit. He wrote a song for a singer named Mary Wells that became the first $1 million seller for Motown. So here's Mary Wells singing My Guy, okay? Next slide.
Nothing you could do can tear me away from my God. Nothing you could do, cause I'm stuck right through to my God. I'm sticking to my God, like a spell to a letter, birds of a feather. Stick together, I will tell you from the start, I can't be torn apart from my God. Nothing you could do could make me untrue to my God. My God. Nothing you could buy could make me tell a lie to my God. I give my God my word, I'm there to be faithful. And I'm going
Okay, pause it. Okay, so Smokey Robinson writes My Guy, big hit from Mary Wells. Anybody remember any other songs by Mary Wells? No. Mary Wells signed her contract with Berry Gordy and Motown before she turned 18 years old. So once she turns 18, her boyfriend at the time convinces her that she needs to leave Motown and sign with 20th Century Fox because she has a chance to perform in movies and also record. She leaves Motown, signs with 20th Century Fox, never to be heard from again. So not a good move. Okay, My Guy, here's My Girl by one of my favorite groups from the early 60s, The Temptations. So you got to sing along with this one. Come on.
I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold,
There you go. Now that's what I like.
I've got my mother, baby. I guess you say what can make me feel this way, my dear, my dear, my dear. Talking about my girl, my girl. I've got so much honey, the bees in the bee. I've got a sweeter song than the birds in the tree. Well, I guess you say what can make me feel this way, my girl, my girl.
Okay. Now this is the part of the show where Blaine starts getting mad at me because we're going to start skipping around. Okay. So we're going to sing along with Elvis this time. So Blaine, let's go to 27. Can't Help Falling in Love. Beautiful. So we're going to do a Bobby Darin song. I remember this song. Yeah.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me. My lover stands on golden sand and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'd go sailing. It's far beyond the stars, it's near beyond. I know beyond the doubt, my heart will lead me there soon.
Okay. Any Beach Boys fans? Okay. Now I'm going to make fun of them. So just bear with me. Okay. Even though you're a Beach Boy fan. Okay. Pay attention to their choreography or lack thereof and their costumes, uniforms, or whatever. Warning, not very impressive. But anyway, they're great singers. Here's the Beach Boys. Blaine, number 35. Look at the choreography.
Well, it's been building up inside of me for I don't know. I don't know why, but I keep thinking something's bound to go wrong. But she looks in my eyes and makes me realize that she's there. Oh, baby, oh, baby.
Okay, pause it. Pretty bad. I remember the movie White Men Can't Jump with Woody Harrelson. I think White Men Can't Dance, I guess is the. So Berry Gordy, when he formed Motown, he had three pretty distinct rules. One is that anybody we hire is going to be a nice person, best as he could. They're going to be dressed immaculately. And we're going to hire a choreographer and we're going to work with each group. So contrast that, a great singing group, the Beach Boys, with their old friends, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, pay attention to the choreography, the costumes, and all that. Night and day. Here we go. Blaine, I'm sorry. 36.
When I became of age, my mother called me to the side.
Suits,
She
ties.
said, son, you're growing up now. Pretty soon you'll take a bride. And then she said, just because you become a young man now,
Yeah,
it's still something that you don't understand. Before you ask some girl for a hand now, keep your freedom for as long as you can. My mama told me, better shop around. I won't forget, you better shop around. Shop around. There's something that I want you to know now. I guess it's sure as the wind's gonna blow now. The wind come and the wind gonna go now. Before you tell them that you love them so much now. My mama told me, better shop around. Oh, yeah.
Okay, pause it.
Better shop around. Shop around.
So it wasn't just the male groups. The top, the group, I can't talk, the American group that had the most #1 hits, 60s, early 70s, they had 12 #1 hits. The Supremes, you got it, very good. 12 #1 hits, so look at their choreography and look at their dresses. First class, okay. Next slide, Blaine, thank you.
But this time before you run to hurt, leaving me alone and hurt. After I've been good to you, after I've been sweet to you, stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Take it home.
Okay, pause it. Okay, I'm almost out of time, but Berry Gordy, to start Motown, borrowed $2,000 from his sister, 1958. And don't hold me to this, but in the early 90s, he sold Motown $58 million. So pretty good return on investment. So, okay, so not only did the Motown groups dance, but our TV stars from the 60s dance. So we're gonna probably close, because I'm out of time, with this little montage. See if you can guess the TV show of who's dancing. Go ahead and yell it out, and I'll help as we go along. So the very next slide, Blaine. The Avengers. Anybody remember the Avengers TV show? No? Barney Fife. Yeah. Addams Family, very good. Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore. Gomer Pyle. That's Patty Duke Show. Doris Day Show. Get It with Sally Field. Batman. Bewitched. Yeah, you can't see that's Gilligan. I Dream of Jeannie. Mr. Ed. And I think that was My Girl, Marlo Thomas. Okay, I'm 1 minute over. So Blaine, let's go to, you know which one I'm looking for. There you go.
That's all, folks.
Okay. So I'm sorry we had to rush, but anyway, that's kind of what we do. So, and I've got these on doo-wop music, the British invasion. I've got truly probably 100 different slideshows. So would love to come back at some point. So who gets the mic? Questions? Oh, questions? No. Well, thank you.
You said you were going to collect stories, and of course you haven't had time to do that. But I lived in Mississippi, and Elvis lived right down the road. Yeah, between.
The next song we'd like to sing.
And on my 6th birthday, by the way, my grandmother loved Elvis and loved Johnny Cash. Anyway, on my 6th birthday, they had a little local TV show in Memphis. Everything was from Memphis, the TV, the radio. And I wanted to go to this show, and it was called the Looney Zoo. And, you know, little kids sit there and watch cartoons. There wasn't much to the show, but my parents took me down there. And then we were going to go to Elvis's house afterwards. Well, Elvis was still living in the house. So obviously we didn't get to go to the house. But as we came up to the fence, which had his silhouette on it with this guitar, the door opened and a car drove in. And I know that was Elvis. I know it was Elvis. Who else would it have been?
He was looking for you.
That's right. I was only 6 years old. But young women didn't seem to bother him much.
Really? I'm shocked.
Since Priscilla was so young.
Yes.
Anyway, I bet we all have a million stories. It was nice to go back.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we have lunch in the hospitality area. Please join us. And we will see you again.
I hope so.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned. If I can find my piece of wood.
Here you go. Hula hoop.